Guys, let's talk Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you want to win, you need the best training in the world. That's where Atos BJJ On Demand comes in. You know Andre Galvão, 6-time ADCC champion, 6-time IBJJF world champ, and his team, monsters. Kay Rutolo, who got the $1 million win at CGI. Kaynan Duarte, ADCC double gold. Even Andre's daughter, Sarah Galvão, is out here wrecking black belts. She's only got a brown. Atos BJJ On Demand. It is the online version of Andre Galvão's academy. You can find over 13,000 hours of structured lessons. And I'm talking about deep dives into positions, drills that you can apply immediately. And it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or you're advanced. This is the system that builds champions. And guess what? It's open to you no matter where you train. Normally an annual subscription is going to run you €249.99. But because I like you, use the code Chael60 and get it for just $99.99. I'm offering you 60% off for full access to the best video library in the game. Atos BJJ On Demand. This is for grapplers that win. Don't miss out. Just click on the link below. What is next for Chimaev? And I feel that that's a bigger question and a bigger talking point even than what happened, right? I mean, we knew going into this, he had a 50% chance of winning that fight. It was either going to be Chimaev or Whittaker, but there wasn't a lot of talk of this being a number one contenders match in regard that whoever wins goes next with Dricus. It was always, to my understanding, a number one contenders match in that whoever wins gets to wait for the outcome of Strickland and Dricus. It had always been that way. And when the performance was done, it really was a wow moment. Robert Whittaker has never had his ass kicked on the ground in the whole career, including 170 pounds and the tournament known as Ultimate Fighter. Never happened. Robert Whittaker, as a matter of fact, has only had his ass kicked twice in his life. Once by Dricus, which was a big surprise of how good Dricus was, which I think is one of the motivations that Robert Whittaker wants to get back in there with him. I think he feels, hey, that wasn't the best meet. I agree with that. And the first time that Robert Whittaker fought Israel Adesanya, where Izzy was just too quick. The angles were just too much. And yes, I am quoting Robert Whittaker. So we did have this amazing moment. And we saw it was like the world's fastest tap. Dana gets a picture of it, sends that to Daniel while Daniel is still on the air. Daniel shows that photo to the audience, which we heard from the announce team was a dislocated jaw, but that's not what it was. It was the actual teeth. The actual teeth had so much pressure that they got displaced. Looked brutal, looked very painful. Looked like somebody would have every right, without any kind of embarrassment, to having to tap out and surrender in that moment. But because we got all these things that we just didn't think we were going to have, because the only negative talk on Chimaev that you have ever heard is a question on his conditioning for championship rounds, should he get there. So when all of this stuff gets erased, now we've got a narrative of is Chimaev next, meaning not as his next fight for a title, thus wait, that the next time the title's contested, Chimaev should be one half of that, thus bumping Sean Strickland out. Not on my watch. Not on my watch are we going to take that from Sean. Now, Dricus had comment on this, and Dricus was rather polite. He said, I felt bad for Rob Whittaker. And you have that camaraderie, right? Even if Whittaker's coming after him, wants to take his title away, you still have that camaraderie after you fought somebody once. So I took this as very sincere, and I like that Dricus said that. I felt bad for Robert Whittaker. Chimaev sure looked great and looks like a top contender. But right there, within that statement, Dricus in no way mentioned Sean or doing that fight immediately and removing Sean. So I went to Strickland, and I asked Strickland, would you give me something that you won't give anybody else? You'd make me look good over here on my YouTube channel. What you tell me I am going to repeat, if you're not into that, just ignore this whole thing. No, he did write me back. This is Sean Strickland speaking. He said, I am next in line. It has been said It has been written. Now that's an exact quote. I wish he would have just gone a little bit more with it's been written, meaning does he have a contract? Doesn't say the word contract, but it has been written. After I beat Dricus, then Chimaev can step up. And to the point of Chimaev as a contender, I welcome that after I compete with Dricus. The man, meaning Chimaev, who scammed his fans, became best friends with a murderer, and had to flee his homeland when the leash got too tight. That guy can sit down and wait his turn. Coming from Sean Strickland. All right. Now, I think at a minimum, guys, and I do believe we're going to do this exactly as we've intended. I believe if any of those names I just mentioned, Dricus, Strickland, Chimaev, is to do another fight aside from the title fight, the most likely is Chimaev. And I don't think he's likely to do it. I think he's likely to wait. But I can't imagine a scenario where Chimaev gets that nod and then Sean has to go fight somebody else. It appears that we have two incredible number one contenders. One has the ranking, oh, and by the way, is completely undefeated, and his last two wins were both over world champions. I'm talking about Chimaev getting the jump on Kamaru, getting the jump on Whitaker. The other is a former world champion who lost the very belt we're talking about in a very controversial manner. One judge didn't think he lost the fight at all, hence the split decision, but a majority of you also thought that Sean had won that fight. So it sounds like we have the right three guys, and it sounds like now we just have a little bit of a waiting process. Does anybody disagree with that strongly? And I know recency bias, and I know how exciting that is. And I know what Chimaev done, and wow, but we never did get to address the big issue going into this. The big issue that you guys had. I read all of your comments. Chimaev, my own partners at DraftKings had Chimaev as a 2-1 favorite on this, but so many of you were taking Whitaker. And the big question was, can Chimaev hold up and be a threat in championship rounds? But we really didn't get an answer to that, did we? And we might not. If a guy is too good, we can't hold that against him. If guys can't stay in there to be there that long, Chimaev trained for it. He signed the contract to do it. I'm talking about 5 rounds. And he didn't hold any of his energy back. And that was the most impressive thing. Because while you thought, while watching the Kamaru Usman fight, that Chimaev got tired, while you thought rounds 4 and 5 would be difficult for him, it's not as though he didn't also think that. It's not as though he did not also wonder, can I take this amount of energy I have, and can I stretch it for 2 more rounds if I need to? In fact, Chimaev specifically talked to Daniel Cormier privately about this and said, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm aware I'll get exhausted. I'm aware I was exhausted with Kamaru Usman. I'm bringing all my energy right now. I'm going to smash these guys, DC. And then he went out and did that. He did not hold back. An athlete who is not afraid of getting tired, acknowledges that he will, doesn't love that exhausted feeling and state that he's in, but he's not afraid of it. He'll go there anyway. Fedor fit that bill. Fedor loved being exhausted. Dan Gable fits that bill, and I had to go all the way back to 1972. I can't think of a third athlete. But based on what we're seeing from Chimaev and what he's saying, I mean, I'll just remind you, an athlete that is not afraid to get exhausted, oh, by the way, can continue focused on his path while being exhausted, goes on to be a champion. So I do not argue with anybody that say Chimaev's next fight should be for a title. And I don't think we're in the point where we're going to remove Sean and even need to have this discussion. But should we get to that point, that would be wrong. Dricus versus Strickland as planned. Winner versus Chimaev as planned.